Welcome back to the next edition of Spilling the Tea in Studio D. We're very honored today to be at Jessieville in the Ag Ride Department. Got a brand new teacher, got a brand new Ag teacher, Mr. Chris Hart. And so I know you've been around the area a little bit, but if you can, maybe tell us why you got into education and how this job for you came to be.
Sure. Tart, by the way.
Oh, Tart. What did I say?
Hart.
Oh, well.
Not the first time. It's okay.
That's all right. At least I didn't say fart, right?
Right.
Okay,
Yeah, I heard that one before,
we're
too.
good. All right. So, okay. There we go.
Listen, never mind. I'm not even going to
Yeah.
go there. We have discussed farts on this podcast.
Yes,
before,
we have. So, there you go.
So, hail all the way from Bismarck, America. Not
Okay.
too far from here, about
Right.
a 45-minute drive every day. Kept the blue and the white and the lines.
Right.
Small town feel. So, got in agriculture. I've been in agriculture technically all my life, but the education side of it, I was able to take a semester-long course with Miss Tina Haynes. She is still there at Bismarck.
Okay.
One of my favorite teachers I ever had.
Oh.
And got to basically choose between agri or family and consumer science that 8th grade year, what we
Right.
wanted to do throughout high school. Obviously, I knew 7th, 6th grade that I wanted to be an agri.
Right.
And enjoyed that class a lot. Bismarck had kind of went through a few high school ag teachers there a few years in a row, couldn't really get situated on one. A lot of young ones coming out and going.
Mm-hmm.
And then a gentleman came in by the name of John Krangle, Bismarck alumni, and I think he did start my 8th grade year, so I got to meet him early because my mom worked at the high school, so I got early exposure to him and visit with him some. Freshman year rolled around, and I was enrolled in his course, had him at the end of the day right before football, and fell in love with it. He was an exceptional teacher.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
And I'll talk more about him, probably talk about him most of the podcast because he is 99% of the reason I do what I do.
Okay.
And that's what it's all about.
Yes,
That's
ma'am.
right. Yeah.
And it was just awesome to see all the extra things you could do. Got into some CDE stuff, career development events, which hopefully we'll get to talk more about that today as well.
Right.
Did that, just kind of jumped into one, didn't really know what I was doing. I actually did dairy and food product judging.
Okay.
Which was,
yeah.
It's one of the more different ones. You got to sample different types of, or tainted milks basically. They'll put like garlic in it and you got to be able to tell like what's the 1 to 10, like how much garlic's in this milk. And
That's gross.
Yeah.
figure out what kind of cheese is what, and it's neat though. And again, the point of these is career development events. Somebody wants to go in and work for the USDA in dairy or doing something of the sort. That's what that prepares them for.
That sounds a lot like Candace's cooking.
My husband would probably agree with that.
Garlic and garlic and milk.
Yeah. So what's the grossest thing you tasted?
That the garlic in the milk was.
I don't even
bad.
like regular milk. I couldn't even do that. Ugh.
But got to do that just to kind of get my feet wet. Didn't really look into the other ones a whole lot. My friend at the time in high school, we did it together.
Yep.
But continuing the education story, why I got into it. Played football from my 4th grade year of school all the way up until my 11th grade year.
Right.
And I got to the point where this is not going to give me anything in life, and that's not to give any sort of shame towards regular normal athletics.
Oh, absolutely.
I just knew that in my heart, I was like, this is not benefiting me. Yeah, I'm in shape. That's about all I'm getting out of it.
Yeah.
So, and I continued with Mr. Krangle all throughout high school, changed the contest, got into one that was a lot more fun to me, a lot more educational to me, which was forestry.
Okay.
And the summer of my 11th grade year, he had finally convinced me to show livestock at the fair.
Yeah.
And he had begged me from basically when he met me in 8th grade all the way up until, and I finally budged after I was done with football. I was like, you know what? I'm not going to commit. I don't have to commit to workouts over the summer every day. I can commit to this.
Yep.
And was at his house every single day the summer before my senior year, working with my livestock project and working for him.
Yeah. So what'd you show that first time?
I showed a commercial heifer.
Oh, okay. All right. How'd you do?
Not the best. That was his bottle calf.
I got you.
So she was a sweetheart. She was like a puppy.
Right.
And her name was 3030.
Right.
And he still got her as far as I know. She's a really good mama now.
Right.
But that was just to get my feet wet with it and experience it. But doing that and being with him throughout the summer just kind of showed me like this is a whole new avenue I didn't even realize was out there.
Right.
And the discipline and the work ethic that had showed me on top of what I had already been instilled from my parents was just that much more. And I remember pretty vividly, I even tell some of my kids this now because I've already had a couple say, well, I kind of want to be an ag teacher, Mr. Tart. I was like, well, that's great, but you're still early. You don't make that decision yet.
Yep.
And we were coming home from county fair 2019, and it was about 2:30 in the morning. We pulled up to his house.
Right.
And I'm the type of man, I've got to be busy. I don't do sitting around. I'm OCD. I've got to be doing something.
Yeah.
And that week was just, 15-hour days, no stopping. Got in that night. I remember looking at him. I said, Mr. Kringle, I think I'm going to be an ag teacher.
Right.
It was
That's awesome.
That's so cool.
Working that week and that night just being out late helping him. And I was like, I want to do this. I want to.
Yeah, my dad has cows, and you were talking about bottle feeding calves.
Right.
He had a cow that had twins. He had to bottle feed both, and he kept them. Of course, he didn't sell them, and one is still alive. You know, has had tons of calves for him or whatever, but she still comes up to him like he's the mom. It's pretty crazy.
They don't change. They know.
It's really cool.
Yep.
Yeah, it's really cool.
And then he always had SAU garb, and let me just warn y'all now, I'm going to be biased towards my college.
Yeah, right.
He had SAU stuff hanging up everywhere, and I had the only other consideration I had made was the U of A. I got to go tour up there for a thing they called Tag to Teach Ag Day. And
right.
He tagged me to teach ag with a couple other my peers. And my senior year, and we went up there and did that, and just talked to some people up there. And financially, there was no way I could go to the U of A.
Right.
And went and toured SAU from some of those CDE contests, and toured again with my parents one summer, and it was set.
Yeah.
And went down there, and it was just probably the best 4 years of my life to this date.
Well, they've got an outstanding ag department down there. That's where Donald Westerman went.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Yes.
So.
Former ag educator.
Yep.
My daughter's best
absolutely.
friend is there. So,
Yeah.
Okay. They've got some wonderful ag teachers there as well. With just those 4 years there, and even the more I got around doing the stuff as far as classroom management and the child psychology and stuff like that, it was even more like I can't wait. I was chomping at the bit to graduate to get to this point. This was my goal, and now I'm here.
Yeah.
Right. Well, and it was kind of interesting. You shared with me a little earlier how you actually landed at Jessieville.
Mm-hmm.
So tell that story a little bit about subbing and rolling into this thing.
So I was student teaching at Nashville. That was another little caveat to that. That was my former ag teacher, one of his close friends that he graduated or close to graduated with in college. So similar guy, a lot of the same feats. Anyways, down there, and there was not a morning that didn't go by that I wasn't on the Arkansas FFA page looking for a job opening. I was ready. Like I said, I was eager. I was enjoying student teaching, loved my co-teachers, but I was ready.
Right.
Yeah.
And it probably the beginning of February, there were a couple on there, Jessieville being one of them. And I'm sure we'll talk about growing an ag program at some point today. And when I seen that, I didn't even know Jessieville had an ag program.
Right.
No idea.
Right.
Yeah.
And most ag teachers, we know one another. One of my co-teachers said we put the cult in agriculture. We all know one another.
Yeah.
We're all
awesome.
buddies.
Yeah. Tight
And
network there. Huh?
I didn't know that it existed, so I said, well, what's the interview experience hurt? Put in an application. And I called one of my buddies, the one I was telling y'all about earlier, and I said, hey, Jessieville's got an opening, let's go get some interview practice. And what came and interviewed, and the interview was, I'm not saying mine was wonderful. I enjoyed the interview.
Right.
Good fit.
Felt good.
Right.
Yeah.
And guess it was, I don't even think it was a day or two, called back and was offered the job, was going to take it to the school board, and did some hardcore praying about it, and I accepted the job. And they had told me, I guess when I think came to sign my contract, they said, well, if you would like to, we could get you to come sub, kind of start knowing some of the kids, because it was such an early interview and application process that I was able to do that.
Right.
Yeah.
And so we got that worked out where I was able to, because of snow days or whatever it may have been, I think they were out the first week of June, so they had almost a month here.
Right.
And I was able to come on as a sub. I graduated college on May the 5th, started as a sub here on May the 8th.
Wow.
Yeah.
And just
That's
got to know
cool.
some. Yeah, it was.
Kind of give you a heads up, and get other kids.
Yeah. Well, it's kind of interesting. Here's our connection, I would say. First of all, I live in Jessieville, but I drive to Arkadelphia, right?
Uh-huh.
And my first teaching job ever was here at Jessieville.
Okay.
Taught and coached a little bit here. Started the broadcast program, so really enjoyed it. It's a great community, great school, and I know for sure that they're really looking to build this program, and it looks like it's off to a great start. And I think the other thing about ag, when folks hear that, they just think it's about cows, chickens, that kind of stuff.
Mm-hmm.
But that's not the case. There's so many, I guess you would call it marketable or really and truly, when it gets right down to it, usable skills, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yes, sir. Yeah, that that was another thing that had really drawn me to it outside of, just being the work ethic and being busy, was the opportunities. And again, talking about athletics and other programs, they provide things, but what I tell the kids, this is, let's say somebody's at a job interview, you've got one kid that, they were a rock star at football, did this, did that, whatever.
Right.
And then you've got a kid that was very, very proficient in FFA, FBLA, FCCLA, whatever club have you. I'm not that biased because they all have a similar goal.
Right.
And the speaking events like that are offered through FFA, the leadership development events, I did one of those in high school. I'm able to talk to anybody. I could tell ice to an Eskimo if I had to.
Yeah.
And that's a skill. If you've got somebody that had a 4.5 40-yard dash, or somebody that has exquisite professional communication skills, who's going to get that job?
Oh yeah, I agree with you 100%. And like I say, I fall back in and onto my radio experience a lot because of that. I mean, there's a lot of times, just out of the blue, maybe asked to do or say something, and having that training and those competitions are great because. What folks don't understand, this is a real live ag room. See that fly swatting that? So
listen, it flew by me a minute ago, and I'm like, I'm gonna have to swat flies during the podcast.
But what I was going to say is, I mean, there's a certain amount of pressure, but the thing is, even going back on your football stuff, that competitiveness in you, I mean, it really pushes you to get out front and really want to do your best out there.
Sure.
So, yeah.
And I think it's important. Like you said, athletics, extracurricular, CTE, just getting kids plugged in somewhere, and then helping them to figure out what's their place in the world. What do I love doing? What do I what can make a difference?
And y'all don't get me wrong, I do love sports.
Sure.
I play football, and I love my Razorbacks, and the coaches here are some of the best men I've met in my life to this day. I use that as a comparison.
Yeah.
So
but you're right. I mean, like the kids need to be involved in that. My daughter was in ag and welded, and I was like super impressed. I mean, she learned so much stuff.
Yeah, it kind of dates me back to my experience here because Coach O'Neill, had him in class, and then his older brother Eric got to know those kids. As we and we keep in touch, obviously, but. It's like I say, you get in here and get to work with some of these great folks outside of what you're doing. And I think that's one of the things. I'm not saying it can't happen at the larger schools, but at the small schools, I feel like everybody's rowing the boat in the same direction.
Sure. Yes. That's one thing I would like to mention. The welcomeness at this school, the small town feel like we've talked about, the administrators here, Mr. Packard, Mr. Savall, the best superintendent in the world, Miss Spears, and every other, there's so many names I could probably go on the entire podcast talking about them, have made me feel so welcome and cared about, and they've made me feel loved. They just have.
Sure.
And I'm sure the administrative ladies in the big office got all annoyed at me this summer because I was question after question. Is this right? Is this right?
What I would say, I don't think this has changed much, but that brings back when I was here. Same exact thing, but man, I feel like I had extension of moms more than I had anything. Man, they made sure that I was taking care of what it was. And you mentioned Coach Savall. We coached together. He had hair back then, and mine wasn't so gray or white, whatever you want to call it. But yeah, and actually, Mr. Packard worked with him at Lakeside. He was a heck of a math teacher. Hated to see him leave that role, but I understand wanting to get into bigger and better, and know he's got a heart for kids.
Absolutely.
And I mean, that's, to me, that's what it's all about there.
Absolutely.
So what grades do you have, 7 through 12, or do you have?
I'm certified 7 through 12. Arkansas FFA is not really big on the 7th grade classes in my experience, but I do have one 8th grade class, and that's kind of the same concept here. They have a semester with me, and then they'll have a semester with which they kind of go different ways. I've got a few more pathways here.
See where they want to go.
Right, and then I've got 2 9th grade classes, which is survey of ag systems, natural resource management, forestry, and then agriculture mechanics and agriculture metals.
Yeah, awesome.
So you mentioned FFA quite a bit. So mention that connection. Well, I am an honorary FFA member from Fountain Lake. I just want to throw that out there.
Gosh.
So anyway, so that disqualifies you, right? So,
yeah, I'm not an FFA.
But FFA and its connection to ag programs.
So agriculture education through Circle Model. You've got classroom, SAE, which is supervised agricultural experience, and then FFA.
Right.
And I wouldn't even sugarcoat it. I would rather be in an FFA event in the classroom because that's where, in my opinion, the students can really flourish. They're not in a school setting. They're like, I'm not in the classroom. I'm not tied down. But the connection of having those professional development skills and the career development events they can go to and truly learn something that'll prepare them for life.
Right. Yeah, not to mention those cool jackets, those blue jackets, right? Do you still have yours from high school?
I sure do.
Can you get in it still?
Probably not. My wife's too good of a cook for that.
But yeah, FFA's been around obviously for a long time.
Yes.
But I couldn't agree with you more. I mean, the competitions, those long nights at the state fair. Obviously, this first year. I mean, do you have anybody showing animals this year?
Yes, I do. That was one of probably my favorite things about getting the head start is I was able to. We struggled with it. I made a lot of phone calls one day trying to find some animals for some kids because they decided they wanted to, because most folks are buying late March, middle of April time frame, getting their animals ready to go. And I had 3 that said, one kid already had her heifer, but had 2 of them that were like, yeah, we want to do it.
Right.
So I went all the way to Wicks, Arkansas, got them 2 Duroc pigs, and we went to the county fair, and, they had about 2.5 months to work with them. And my young lady, Caroline Wiley, she's actually my chapter president.
Okay.
She showed this purebred Duroc, which purebred shows are kind of different from market shows and commercial shows. So a little less competition, but they were still really good competition at the county fair. And she went out there, and this is one of those building the professional development and just life lessons. And I got to watch it unfold, especially as a first-year teacher. It was really cool to see it happen in the moment from that perspective.
Oh, yeah.
And in the first show that she showed in, the market show, really, really competitive because you got pigs that are built like Arnold Schwarzenegger over here, and then a pig that's
built like
to be,
Candace, right?
Sure.
Yeah, right.
And it's one that's bred to be a good mama.
Right, yeah.
And
you can't disqualifies
I'm
you.
a great mom.
Okay.
Saying.
Yeah, okay.
And you can't really compare the two. So she didn't. I think she placed 4th in her class in the market.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
Which was still good.
Yeah.
She is a very, very, very competitive young lady.
Right.
And she was distraught, almost in tears, because she didn't win first.
Right.
And I said, 1, it's not over.
Right.
2, there's always just wait.
Yeah. Right.
And just talked her up for a few minutes, and sure enough, she went back out to that purebred show, and she won grand champion.
Oh, man.
And she was just won her first belt buckle. She was on cloud 9.
Yeah.
And this is what I said. I told you so.
Yeah.
Just watching that unfold,
Just
just
be
her.
patient.
Right.
Exactly. And just you can't get down on yourself in these moments, and that's what these things teach these kids: the discipline and the work ethic. And hey, there's always something better. Be positive. Find the positive in a situation.
Oh, yeah. And that's great advice. I mean, and so will they roll on into the state fair?
Sure. Yep. We are leaving. Got the trailer hooked up out there already. We're going to leave early Monday morning to go up there. Yeah. And they'll be there the entirety of the week.
Yeah, and I think folks that don't follow that can't really appreciate the time commitment to that. But it's like you're saying, it is long days over there, right?
It is, and that the discipline part of it, and responsibility. Most people think, oh well, you can walk your pig with a whip like that. I could do that any day of the week. Yeah. Okay, do you know how that feed's formulated? Do you know how many pounds and ounces you're feeding of that? The supplements you're putting in it, what the supplements are doing.
Right, yeah.
And people just think, but the fact that these kids are getting up 5:30, 6 o'clock in the mornings before they can beat the heat in the summer to work with this animal, and then at night as well.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, that's I mean, I've always been impressed with the folks that go over there and do that, and like you say, it is a true commitment, right? You think you could figure out something for, like, as far as putting supplements and foods for Candace to gain weight? I mean,
I sense a little bit of a brother sister rivalry here.
He's just jealous.
No. Here's what I would say.
No, yeah, he is like my brother, my older brother.
We have known each other for quite some time.
Long time.
We student taught together, and
but he is older than me.
And
here's
to say that. Right?
Here's what I would tell you, and I don't know if this is a good thing or bad thing. I really toy with this, but I've hired her like twice. So I hired her at Fountain Lake. We worked together before that at Lakeside, and then I brought her over to the co-op. So I really don't know if I was like having a down moment when I called her in. I don't know. I'm still working on it. You know what I'm saying?
You know what the definition of insanity is.
Yeah.
Right?
Exactly. Yeah.
Watch
it. Hey, you throw her into the mix, and hey, gas pedals down, you're there.
You gotta have fun at work.
Right.
We do have fun.
Absolutely.
We work hard, but we We
Yeah,
have
some
fun.
days we play harder, so
Yeah,
but that's
some
all right.
days.
So
Yeah.
I look around and see all this equipment. So it looks like you got maybe some welding going on.
Yep.
And for sure we got saws of all kind. So as far as kids that aren't interested in, let's just say the you know, the showing of animals or that type stuff, what else you got for them?
Well, let me preface by saying this. Start off. So another thing that Mr. Kringle kind of instilled in all of his students, and something that we kind of talked about philosophically at some of our upper level college ag ed classes, is ag teachers are life teachers too.
Right.
And I guess I'm young enough to say that I remember what it was like being in high school 4 years ago.
Yeah.
Right.
And just remembering some of the nobody likes book work.
Right.
Let's face it, nobody does.
Right.
Yeah.
Well,
No.
math teacher.
Math teacher.
Hey,
right.
math
Don't-
nerd.
don't
Okay,
even,
Okay.
don't even.
All right.
I really didn't like bookwork though. I don't like writing papers, so I'm just saying. I
It's
agree.
different in that sense.
Yeah.
So I mean,
Right.
you can't.
Yeah.
I mean, you teach math hands on, but at
Right.
the same time, you can't.
Yeah.
You know, and I get that.
Right.
But the life teacher aspect of it, being able to be a life coach, like I was saying, telling
Right.
the young lady that showed, you know, you can't get down.
Right.
Life is always going to knock you down.
Yep.
Like Rocky said, it's about how you get back up.
Right. Exactly.
Yep.
And but I told my kids, no matter how these classes go, whether or not you're one of my officers, you do any FFA event with me, or you even go
Right.
out there and touch a welder,
Right.
you take out of this class how to be a better man or woman,
Right.
Mm-hmm.
how to be a better citizen,
Yep.
Right.
and love one another.
Yep.
Yeah.
That's
Oh
awesome.
yeah. Absolutely.
That's awesome.
Yeah, and like you know, some of these folks that come through the program, or let's just take welding for instance, and they get a little taste of that skill or what have
Sure.
you. I mean, we had shop back in the day, but we didn't have an ag ride program. But what I'm saying is, you never know when those skills are going to come into play.
Right.
I mean, where you're living, working on a fence, that kind of stuff.
Yeah, just being able to show them those little life skills, and I've kind of tried to tell them that. Some of them, you know, no matter how hard I pry, they just don't want to deal with it. You know,
Right.
that
Mm-hmm.
I've been kind of struggling with some of my boys in my metals classes. It's too hot to wear jeans. Well, guys, I can't let y'all weld unless you wear blue jeans. It's
Absolutely.
a safety hazard.
Yeah.
You know.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
But again, just falling back on, you know, at the end of the day, if you can weld or not, sure, that's a life skill you can use, and you know, being able to just use that on the farm if you have one at
Right.
some point in time,
Yeah.
that's something you need to know.
Oh, absolutely.
But you know, outside of the metals class, you know, woodworking and some simple, real simple wiring exercises for
Right.
receptacles and light
Yeah.
switches, just stuff like that I could show them briefly, you know, over the
Right.
course of a week for a unit
Sure.
or something, and
Yeah.
understanding that. So
Yeah. So you know, being a first year teacher, and again, I mean, no doubt you're passionate about ag, that kind of stuff.
Right.
Any of the other teaching stuff that's caught you off guard, surprised you a little
Yeah,
bit?
you got in here and we're like, whoa.
Yeah.
well, a lot of people, you know, tell me the first year's it's pretty rough, and I thought they were just, you know, no, it's not that bad.
Right. Right.
It's not that bad, but there's that student teaching did not
Yeah.
prepare me.
Yeah.
for it.
Yeah. Yeah.
It it's just been. I'll say my biggest fault and the hardest thing that I've experienced is these kids say some stuff that I shouldn't laugh at. And it's it's
yeah.
hard not to laugh at it. It's
Yeah.
so fun. I laugh at everything as it is.
Yeah.
but
Yeah. Well, and you know, to your point, I can remember, you know, when I first got out of college, a lot like you in radio, man, I was gung ho, and this guy had been like to Southern California, major markets, and he was like, "Well, remember this class? Yes, sir. Remember this class? Yes, sir." And he said, "Well, you can forget all that stuff, and this is how it's really done." And
Right.
that's kind of how teaching is. It's baptism by fire.
It
Yep.
is.
Absolutely.
They don't teach you kid personality 101
Mhm.
or,
Right.
or kids
And I
having a
think-
bad day 101.
I think
Right.
it's hard to even teach that. I think you just have to experience it.
Sure.
I mean,
Right.
that's, you know, you get a little bit of it when you intern,
Right.
but not.
They're not
in
your kids.
charge.
Right.
Yeah, you're not. They're not.
Right,
Your
but
kids.
again, I think that weaves right back into some of the competitions you've experienced in those communication skills.
Absolutely.
Right,
You know,
that's true.
kids are people.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Well, most days. Now, middle school
Yeah.
guys, you know, so I
Yeah,
think
they
that,
lose
Sure,
it.
sure.
yeah, they have outer body
They lose it for
experiences.
2 years. I don't know.
Yeah, but then they come back. That's right.
Right.
So yeah. So you know, going forward, I mean, what's your big plan? If you see your future, let's just say 5 years from now.
A lot of involvement. Obviously, that's probably
Right.
every ag teacher's dream, is just to have kids waiting at the door to come and be a
Right.
part of it. You know,
Right.
and, that's obviously not how it's going to be. Probably never how it's going to be.
Right.
But one thing that we've kind of talked about, Miss Spears was actually the one that brought it to my attention, and we've talked about it even with the school board, and it's kind of been null and void right now. But you know, football season's going on, showing
Right.
season's going on
Right.
for me. There's just a lot going on right now.
Right.
But we have discussed a school farm.
Oh, okay, good.
Oh,
Yeah.
that's
yeah.
neat.
And those are not few and far between, but few and far between.
Oh,
Right.
right.
Yeah.
A lot
that's
of,
really neat.
you know, I know you guys went to Center Point
Right.
not
Yeah.
long ago.
Mhm.
Yeah.
And they've got a school farm. A few other schools have like an animal science barn, animal science facilities, which we don't even have an animal science pathway here yet.
Right.
But we talked about having April coming to write a startup grant for that if we get to that point,
Right.
because that's kind of my forte. Like I like forestry, love forestry, natural resource, not really my thing. Not gonna
Right.
sugarcoat it.
Right.
But the school farm thing, I was telling the school board, you know, Center Point has one.
Yep.
And this is no shame on Center Point. They've got probably historically the best ag program in the state of Arkansas.
Right.
But I had kind of a dream that I thought about, you know, have a school farm, and we're constantly talking about life skills for these kids, right?
Yep.
And work ethics and stuff like that, and something different that they could go into. What if this school farm was fully functioning in the aspect of they're producing things?
Right.
You know,
Yeah.
if these kids have, you know, hens that are laying eggs, are they being served at the cafeteria?
Right.
Versus, you know, bagged eggs
Yeah.
or powdered,
Right.
you know, like,
Yeah.
are we giving
Exactly.
eggs? And, you know, some schools provide lettuce and stuff like that.
Right.
But what about a farmer's market with fresh milk? You know,
Yeah.
like
Oh yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
that's a massive, massive thing, but
Yeah.
I do think it's doable.
Oh yeah. Absolutely, it
Yeah.
is.
So-
Yeah.
Yeah.
You
Just
know
don't
what?
put garlic in the milk.
Yeah. Don't put garlic.
No,
in it.
I don't think I'll do that.
Yeah. Right. I'm gonna do that to you one day at work.
I do
But-
not drink milk.
I
so
know, but I'm gonna put it
you
in
put it
your
in my water.
Yeah.
Put garlic in my water.
Yeah, that's what I'm gonna do. Hey, tell me what that is. You put a good idea in my head. So
Thanks.
so
I'm sorry.
Yeah.
you know, with you know, the ag program, like I said, you know, and that's, I mean, I love that idea. You know, especially living out here, having a
Right.
big, you know,
Yeah.
that'd be good. But you know, that's one of the things about some of these school things. I think the school farms are the kids and their involvement. I mean, even at Center Point, he talked to us a lot about, you know, growing crops. And I think one of the funniest things he told us, he said they had a strawberry patch over there. Said it was rolling along, and I think what he say, spring break happened,
Yes.
and it kind of got in the back of his mind. And when
Right.
the kids came back, they're like, "What have you done? They're all dead," you know.
Yeah.
So. And but the kids, he said, were
Live and
very
learn.
active in that. Yeah.
Yep.
So yeah.
And that again, it's one of those. I try to view everything as something that you can always overcome it.
Oh yeah.
I firmly believe that,
Mhm.
and that's just like, you know, if these kids are taking care of this livestock, this crop, whatever it may be, yeah,
Yep.
there's going to be a bad season.
Oh yeah.
What are you doing to rebound?
Exactly.
How are you
Yeah.
How are you handling it?
Yeah.
It's a situation. Fix it.
Right. That might be the first Rocky reference we've had since we've been doing this, but I like it. Right.
Me
Get
too.
knocked down,
Me
get
too.
back up. Yeah.
That's right.
I love my-
He has
I
the
love
best
my quotes.
attitude. I
Yeah.
love it.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, and that's the thing, you know. I think, I mean, we're all like-minded here at this table in that very positive. I mean, you know, we call it failing forward. We know there's going to be failures and things we try,
Absolutely.
and sometimes I think that's what, you know, that's a lesson kids need to learn. You know, don't hold back and see and watch other people make mistakes. Be that front runner and make mistakes and learn from it.
Sure.
And you know, I think there, you know, it's almost at times like society's gotten to that point. Well, I don't want to be the first one out because but hey, it doesn't bother us at all. And I think you're doing right by instilling that in the kids. So, you know, as far as you know, being here, I know it's a 12-month contract,
Yes,
right?
sir.
So, I mean, you're committed,
Yes,
ready
sir.
to roll with that, right?
Yes, sir. Yeah, that state law, if y'all didn't know that,
Right.
you did, and that's something that hopefully ag teachers aren't willing to budge on, you know.
Right,
It,
yeah. Yeah.
A good one, I guess, and I'm not saying that I am.
Right.
It's just one of those things. If you want to have a flourishing ag program,
Right.
what in my mind is a flourishing ag
Right.
program, you know, you can't have these show animals, much less a winning show animal,
Right.
if you're not putting in these hours with these
Yeah.
kids during the summer.
Oh, absolutely, yeah. And I think, you know, in my mind, I've always seen that it is so important for that 12-month contract for that absolute very reason.
Yes, sir.
It's not like you can take a show cow or heifer or whatever and put them in the barn, you know, summertime and just come back in the fall and
Right.
go, well, ready to
Right.
show it, right?
Exactly.
Yeah.
You talk about your forestry thing. So, was that? I mean, did you learn how to identify tree leaves and that kind of stuff?
Yes, sir. So, talking on the forestry CD, for example, in and of itself, there's timber cruising and saw logs, which there is obviously technology now to do it way easier and way faster.
Right.
But the contest is set up in a traditional way, which you have something called a Biltmore stick. It's got preset measurements on it.
Right.
There are specific things you have to do. Basically, becomes muscle memory over time to get how many board feet, which is how many usable boards you can get out of a
Right.
certain tree.
Right.
You have that. You have tree identification, like you were talking about. There's a map test, knowing different landmarks on map, how to identify that. There is compass and pacing. There is I'm trying to think, equipment ID, all the types of different equipment from a chainsaw all the way up to something called a reloscope.
Right.
Just a bunch of different things.
What's a reloscope?
That is
I have no idea.
Don't get me to line. It's one of the instruments now that kind of replaces the Biltmore stick, makes life a lot easier.
Gotcha. Okay.
But there's all kinds of different. I think there's close to 50 or 60 things the kids have to be able to distinguish from at the contest, and then just those skills that they can, if they decide they want to go to, which I think UAM is one of the only forestry programs in the state. But if they start deciding, which we've got a forest service right here by the school. Right. A lot of the kids, I know the middle school counselor's son did an internship with them this past summer, and she was telling me last night at parent-teacher conference, kind of want him to work in forestry. He likes it. Right. And I said, well, then he needs to come to the forestry contest with me, because that prepares him. Yes. He'll have that much more of a leg up on those kids at college from that knowledge of those 4 years of high school. Right.
Right. Well, I know when we travel with Donald, a lot of times we'll say, "Man, that's a cool tree. What is that?" And he'll let me look at the leaf, and that's a pin oak or whatever. And we're like, "That's pretty impressive, Mr. Tree Guy." Yeah.
Pine tree. That's about. That's
and there are 3 of those in the state of Arkansas.
Well, see. Can only identify that it's a pine tree.
Exactly. Yeah. So.
Oh man.
So back to FFA. I know you guys. What's your big fundraiser this year?
Normally, right now, I had the idea to do a chili cook-off the other day.
Right.
And fortunately, thankfully, again, the admin being as supportive as they are, they allowed me to do that during the homecoming game.
Right.
Oh,
right.
Yeah.
Who won?
Busy.
We did.
All right.
That's
Yeah, we did. It was pretty great.
Yeah.
Okay.
I love my football boys. I've got a lot of them in class, and they're awesome kids.
That's awesome.
Did the chili cook-off during homecoming, and I was expecting, couple $100, and we way blew that out of the water. I was so happy. The chill in the air just hit just right. And halftime we had folks lined up coming to get a bowl of chili, and fortunately, you're talking about Coach O'Neill.
Yeah.
His wife his mother-in-law, cooked a massive, and just basically said, "Here you go, use this for the kids." And
yeah. So did you have an outright winner in the chili cook-off?
Well, it didn't turn out to be much of a cook-off.
I got you.
Thankfully, it turned out to be some community members that were just like, you know what, we're going to donate some chili for these kids.
That's awesome.
And it was a very humbling experience, and my heart was probably as full as it's ever been. The help and the support.
Yeah.
So if you had a big wish list, what would be the first thing that you could purchase for your program?
That's a good question.
He comes up with good ones on the fly.
The first thing I think we'll start in the shop here. I would love a CNC plasma table.
Yes.
We've got a CNC wood table right here.
Right.
But metal's kind of more the going thing now, making these signs with names and bucks and stuff on it. So already been talking to April about that. So hopefully we'll get that ball rolling soon. And then probably an animal science facility like some of these schools have. We've talked about just having, like, my big thing with that. Another thing I didn't mention about the school farm is we live right next to Hot Springs Village. Yep. A lot of the student body lives in Hot Springs Village. Right. You can't keep an animal there.
That's right. Yeah. Right.
So, and that was one of the things Miss Spears and I talked about when she mentioned it. That opens up such a huge educational opportunity for these kids because they can't keep it there. Right. But they can keep it here.
Absolutely.
And even on top of that, you build an animal science barn/facility. Right. That opens up room for lab experience, classroom instruction, and then they've also got their animals there during show season to tend, take care of, doctor, whatever it may be.
Yeah. You've mentioned April. That's April Shepard that works for us, for those of you listening at home. But she's probably one of our most, I don't know what the word would be, but she's kind of behind the scenes. I'll say it like that. But, man, she's incredible, isn't she?
Yes.
I grew up with her. I guess that's why I keep mentioning her.
Right.
She's a rock star.
Yeah. When it comes to writing these programs of study and getting those grants, I literally can say this without hesitation, and no doubt one of the best, if not the best in the state, of going out and being able to get those programs rolling.
Yeah, and that helps
Absolutely.
that you have the connection.
Right.
That's right. Yeah, exactly.
Miss April.
Exactly.
Sure.
Well, and we'll wind this thing down in a minute, but we always have a few questions. So I know, being an ag, right, there's had to been an embarrassing moment, right, at some point. So what would you say would be your most embarrassing, or one of the most embarrassing moments with animals involved? There's got to be something.
It didn't necessarily embarrass me, but it's a great story.
All right, hey, we're off to a good start.
I'm not easily embarrassed. My wife's pretty good at it when she wants to be. But anyway, so in high school, my senior year, had 3 ag classes. We were in advanced animal science, and Mr. Kringle has his personal farm, probably a mile from the school, if that.
Right.
And I had got up early with him that morning to help him get the cows up, sorted, ones that he wanted to work. Well, he wanted to have a castration lab.
Right. I got you.
So we were out there.
Okay.
You can already tell kind of where this is going.
Hey, I started to say I love where this is going. Okay, go ahead.
So we were, got it all done. Everything went smooth during the lab. You know, girls were in the back. Oh my goodness, no!
Right. Yeah.
As if they didn't sign a permission slip and a waiver, knowing
Right.
what they were getting into.
Right. Right.
After the fact, you know, I was the one, I guess, qualified per se to be in the pens, had permission from parents, so on and so forth. And
Right.
got in there to turn everybody out. You know, the morning was smooth,
Right.
he's very docile herd
Right.
that he owns. And so I get out there to turn these cows back out, and all of them run by me. It was fine. And then there sits a mama in the corner of this alleyway.
Uh-oh.
And I didn't know what she was doing, and I realized baby had already ran by me, and I was like,
Right.
well, guess what? I'm in between mama and baby.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
And, you know, here's my entire class. Teacher,
Yeah.
paraprofessional, and probably 8 to 10 students standing
Right.
out there. And she kind of ducked her head, and you're not going to do anything. I'm calling your bluff.
Yeah.
And she did the cliche textbook foot in the dirt, and here she came, and you're going to stop.
Yeah.
And sure enough, she buckled me and threw me up in the air,
Yeah.
and then I'm laying on the ground, and
gosh.
I hear bloody murder screams from the girls over
Yeah.
here, and then the paraprofessional, his name was Mr. Fisk, really good buddy during school, and he, big burly dude, like
Right.
you would
Yeah.
think would not be scared of anything,
Right.
and he was white as a ghost. He said,
Yeah.
I thought you died.
Oh my gosh.
I'm like, I'm fine.
Oh my
So
gosh.
at what point were those football skills kicking in? Did you break down and think, oh, all right, here we go? Or did it happen too quick?
It happened too quick. That Mr.
Yeah.
Kringle looked at. He said, "You do not need to be a bullfighter." It was fun though.
Well, you mentioned your wife a couple times. What does she do?
She is she's actually still in college. She'll graduate. She's doing all online and working a full-time job. She is she's a trooper. She is my best friend and the most
Right.
amazing person I know on the face of this planet.
Right.
But she's currently working at Sigma Supply down here at the end of Mountain Pine Road as a
Right.
customer service specialist. But
Okay.
she deals more with spreadsheets and stuff like that, getting to use her education right now, and she's loving it.
She going
super
what,
smart.
accounting or?
She's a business finance major, and I
Gotcha.
think her overall, you know, you asked about like a 5-year goal, and she wants to eventually, you know, about as high up in any bank she could choose as
Sure.
she could get. That's
Gotcha.
that's what her parents did, and that's what
I
she
got
wants
you.
to do.
I got you.
Oh wow, awesome.
Well, and you know, the time commitment for an ag teacher, it's a whole lot like a coach. I mean, I don't know that folks realize that, but I mean, it takes a special person to be able to get in and support that.
Sure.
Yep.
She's still in the learning stages of it. She's like I'll be going all week next week. My parents are going to be out of town, so she doesn't really have anybody.
Yeah.
She's from Dallas, so she doesn't really have anybody up here.
Okay, I got you.
And she's like, well, I guess I'm gonna be all alone next week. No, grandma's around and got some other family around. You'll be fine.
So did y'all meet in college with
Yes.
her being from?
Yes.
Okay. I started to say Bismarck, Dallas. Man.
I'm like, wow, yeah.
That's quite the contrast.
She was a collegiate tennis player, and
Oh wow, yeah.
Hey.
Yeah, Candace is working at pickleball. She's gotten pretty good at it.
my in-laws are some pickleball players.
I've
My
never played
goodness.
it, but I'm like, I mean, Tina Hobbs plays.
Yeah.
You know,
Okay.
your
Yeah.
novice coordinator.
Right, yeah.
He's talked about being in sessions with Tina.
Hey, she's obsessed with that stuff. Tina is, man.
Yeah.
Have y'all
People
tried it,
play
man?
her.
It's great. I mean, I've played it once or twice. But
Right.
yeah,
I've never played it, but I mean,
Yeah, you've got
I
the
like
build
playing
for a
cards.
professional pickleball player.
I could be a
Yeah,
professional
yeah.
pickleball player.
Yeah, if we got the right racket.
Yeah,
you know,
maybe.
it comes down to
Just
that.
put me with like the people your age.
Hey, you know what?
I could probably.
I could take you to Hot Springs Village right now, and I promise you, there's folks over there that
They would beat me.
wear you out.
I
They,
know.
hey, they were doing pickleball when pickleball wasn't cool over there. They've had
Yeah.
courts over there forever. So I mean, they got it going on. So I know you commute, you know, back and forth like I do. So what's on your playlist right now? If we hopped in the old truck, or you know, and listen to what you listen to.
Lots of Cody Johnson and Aaron Watson.
Yeah, you know who that is?
Yes, I do.
Okay, name 2 Cody Johnson songs.
Listen, I can't think of the
See,
names,
yeah.
but he played at Garland County Fairgrounds,
He did?
and my house is like
Yeah.
right over the
But yet you,
mountain, and we can
but,
hear him.
but yet you still can't name 2 songs.
I can, but
She is a poser, is what
No.
she is.
Well, now hang
yeah.
on a minute. Can you name 2 songs?
Oh, absolutely.
Thank
Where do you
you,
want me to
Chris.
start,
Thank
huh?
you, Chris.
I mean, I'm trying to think what my
I'm Googling
favorite
right
one
now.
would be. Let's
I'm
see.
Googling to see if he's
Gosh, I mean,
Come on.
he's good. You know
See?
what I'm saying?
Okay.
That's what you call a topwater catfish.
No,
That's what I'm talking about.
Hey, I'm fixing to give them to you.
Okay.
What's the one right now? Is it the painter?
Yep.
Okay, there's
Okay.
one. And then if we go old school, would be
I'm trying to think.
the one that put him on the map.
That's the one I'm trying to.
Let's see. Golly, let's see. I can't think of that one now.
Till You Can't.
Let's see.
I've heard that one.
Yeah, Till You Can't. That was the other one that was pretty popular.
I mean, if it's been on the radio, I hear it.
What's the one? I'm going off a little bit here, but about the black dress. Anyway, but yeah, here I go. I can't believe it. I listen to him all the time.
That's
Yeah.
nothing on you.
See,
Yeah, nothing
you
on
thought you were gonna bust me out, and Kristen,
Yeah.
he can be on our podcast anytime.
Yeah, that's true. Hey, I'm with you. I'm trying to think of the other
But
one.
hey,
though.
side note, while you're trying to
Yeah,
think,
yeah.
we were talking. That's what we were talking about. The commute. They take you guys both take the new bypass, which
Oh, yeah.
I took
That's-
I it's really not. I mean,
Yeah.
like it's nice.
Shaved about 10, 12 minutes off.
Yeah,
of me. It's
yeah.
Really, really nice.
Same here. She got on it for the first time. What, yesterday?
Well, I actually had gone last night, and then today was just the second time I've been on it. It's really. I mean, it's.
Man, I was loving it the first 2 trips, and then I got behind a dump truck one morning. I was like, ugh, because it's
in the
pretty steep
fall-
in spots, right?
Yeah. When the leaves change, that's gonna be a pretty drive.
Right.
It's really nice.
Yeah. So it's shaved at least that off of there. Man, I can't believe I've gone Cody blank here, but yeah. So who was the other one you said?
Aaron Watson.
Aaron Watson. Yeah, he's not super duper popular
not
yet.
super well known, but he's
Yeah.
one of my favorites. He actually played at Arkansas FFA State Convention. I guess it was 2 years ago now.
Oh yeah.
And that was like a dream come true because it was my favorite artist and free concert. What more could you ask
Right.
for?
Yeah.
that's
Oh,
cool.
absolutely. And so, you're just straight up country. You don't throw any like classic rock or anything. Yeah.
Growing up with my dad was born in '69, so the 70s and 80s hair bands. So I grew up, AC/DC, Black Sabbath,
Right.
Yeah,
Aerosmith,
that's
the whole
awesome.
nine. And I listened to them all
White
the time.
Snake, all those good
Yep.
ones, right? Yeah.
Sure enough.
Yeah, I'm 67, so I'm right there with him. So,
Right.
Yeah. But yeah, and when I worked in radio, it was in country. So, and the thing about that I love about those folks, man, they're so down to earth. Honestly, I mean, we met Garth, and one of my favorites was Vince Gill.
Right.
He was at Magic Springs one day on the bus, just looking like he had been ran over by a truck. I said, "Man, you gonna be all right tonight?" He said, "Yeah, those lights hit me." He said, "I'll be good." Man, he did. He took off with it. So yeah.
That's cool.
But any parting words of advice before we get out of here for Candace? I mean,
Yeah. Or how about for brand new teachers?
brand new teachers.
Yeah,
That's a good
since
one.
he's- Yeah.
Brand new teacher.
Or somebody thinking about going into
That's right.
teaching.
Don't go in thinking you know it all.
Yeah,
You don't.
there you go.
I
That's
promise
right.
you don't.
Right. Yep. That's right.
That's good. You're 28. I'm still learning stuff.
Yeah. 28.
22.
Oh,
You're 28.
you made it sound like.
You're
Oh,
28.
I started to say you talking about somebody. Anyway.
Mentally, I'm probably
What
28.
you brought up Tina in the mentor piece. How important do you feel like that is to get in the room with other first year teachers?
It it's cool to see other, because ag is so different.
Right.
But seeing other first years, kind of how they approach things, especially young ladies.
Right.
Ain't no way I feel bad for them because
Right.
these high school boys give me a hard enough time. I can't
Right.
imagine being
Yeah.
like,
Right.
bless their hearts.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
just getting to talk with other folks that are younger and teaching right now, it's cool to see their classroom management practices and stuff like that,
Right.
how they attack it.
Yeah, and struggling with some of the same struggles you
Right,
have, right?
exactly.
Yeah, and yeah, I think it's invaluable. And Tina again does another employee that
Oh,
does
yeah,
an
she's
incredible
great.
job,
Yes,
and
she is awesome.
she goes the extra mile there a little bit. So
You betcha.
she's she's texting and emailing all weekend. Some
Yeah,
weekends,
some of them need something. Yeah,
So,
it's awesome.
well, man, we appreciate you taking the time
Yeah.
and inviting us out. This shop we'll be back in a year. Hopefully, maybe we'll see that metal plasma machine out
Sure,
here.
that would be awesome.
Yeah, hey, Candace has got a pretty thick checkbook. I mean, she's loaded. Let me tell you,
I wish.
I sign her check.
I wish.
Man.
I've been debating on going to get in the lottery ticket, but
Hopefully
I just
we'll
know
have
the
a-
odds.
Yeah,
Not going to do it.
Hopefully, we'll have a pretty big benefit auction.
Yeah.
Shop built projects by the kids about April or so. So you'll have
Oh
to
yeah, that'll be really
come back and
good.
check that out.
Hey,
Yeah.
professional pig kisser right there.
Have done that before.
yeah, yeah,
Kiss pigs.
yeah.
Things
So,
you do when you're a principal.
Yeah, that's
You
right.
do a lot of things.
Exactly.
I do have two last things I would like to leave.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Both of these I share with my kids, and I think they are crucial, especially with the society we live in today. One of them being, it's John Wayne quote, "Go figure," cliche ag teacher thing, right?
Right.
I told them all, y'all are young and you don't think knowledge is valuable. Learning is not valuable to them right now in this stage. But I said, I want you to keep something in mind. I said, if it's in this class or another class, John Wayne said, when tomorrow comes, it hopes you learned something from yesterday.
Right.
Don't care what it is.
Right.
Yep.
Then the other one, talking about Cody Johnson, I seen a clip on Facebook at the end of summer, and I wrote it down. I was like, that's going to be told to every single one of my classes the first day of school. And he said, I don't care what it is, political party, what's going on in the world. He said, it doesn't matter. It's irrelevant. Background, love them anyway.
Right.
It's that simple.
Yes.
Everything would be so much easier if we could do that.
Amen.
Absolutely.
Amen.
So,
Well, and you said something about writing it down. That's one thing I do like to encourage young teachers to do is, call it write it down, journaling or whatever.
Yep.
And, I look back and I do a lot of that. I've said this before on the podcast. I've got 80 bazillion journals. I keep one by my bed everywhere. But looking back, that's probably one of the things I wish I would have started a little earlier. But it's so cool to look back on that. Like the other day, I was going through a file and something fell out, and I thought, what was that? And it was a letter from. I say a letter. It was a picture and a sign that a first grader had given me. Saying, hey, thanks for being the superintendent and that kind of stuff. And I thought, man, that's kind of cool.
Yeah.
So, and start that feel good file.
Yeah, and that's the great advice. Feel good file. When the kids start giving you stuff, have it in a folder. If you're having a bad day, just pull that out.
It will certainly reinforce doing what you do. Well, man, we appreciate it. It's great to meet you.
So
Thank y'all for having me.
All right, man, I appreciate you. Yep. Well, that's going to wrap it up for this edition of Spilling the Tea in Studio D.